applying are similar. Rona, where sometimes we get tempted to go into the digital space to do, this business here. It's premature because we have not mastered first things first. Mastered the lives, all right. And then up until that's another same level where all our spaces are utilized fully, they're utilized properly. We stop having the park what is the possible explanation why right in the middle of town, yet we've got so much need to do that. What could be the explanation for that? Now, how will have die? That cycle every day way. This lending guy has been sitting there. That's like how many hectares I checked the other day. It's about all the way.
But it's not being developed.
No. I mean, even our little guru, he's got parks that are just crime havens. It's a fire. Or like that. So it's not good for neighborhoods. So it's not good for money. So it's not good for intellect or anything. Land must be used. And then when you come into spaces, it's on a little bus rank, it's so painful. When food count, they exceed any other in the city or any other in the country. It's just wasteland. I want accounting necessary, but I want a title to nothing. But this thing can spend so much money, it's not even fine. If it was done, how would you in the first world and see how systematic and automatic things are? It's because parking is commercial. Everything is done with accuracy. Everything is properly so that it can run as a system, self-finance, and be able to run itself, not to deteriorate itself. The toilet. I mean, what's wrong with having a toilet there? If I put it there, well, instead of having toilet things are very king, the toilet thing and whatnot. Now you create a complexion. We don't feel proud. Why? Because we're not organizing ourselves to import the best management systems for land and our spaces and our buildings. Whenever there is a building and there is a many of us utilizing facilities, there is a system that we can adopt. That is, anyway. That is not like spending more money. This thing. No. Use the very same money that you're spending there. The people they are paying rent anyway. I mean, I know there's a guy behind the library, system ever did. Last night, area title lesson. Okay, city council it's proper titles, and sectional, and create a scheme, a corporate, a body corporate, all these people, these beneficiaries, these body supports on the sales sort of they pay rates, they pay rates to council, but the council cannot leverage the rates against the facility because they don't have title.
Yeah.
So rates the value of that place will also let money capture becomes more accurate because now we're exploding and expanding the value of the asset to make it perform. When there are better parking, even underground, there's no limit. We can increase. I don't want to run and then create more. But if you go in Africa, everywhere you go in Africa, this chaos is there in all the cities in Africa. It's an African type chaos. Eating. Outside this world. What am I? It's just chaotic. The way they However, flow, maybe they do what they do, and the money is there. The money is there. Don't you know? Because when I go spaces, all the servitudes, all and even sectional title, all their buildings in that thing, you know. Exactly. And that's how even railway managed to put up the rail park more. Because they're titled. Railway is the only one of the institutions that part of the town. Anyway, because of certain rules, but I'm title to the land because he took title. And railway park mall is actually a subtitle of the railway servitude. What utilities does not do that, BBC does not. They need to. So that money that they receive can start making sense. I don't think you can share the idea of a school in Murabura where you wanted to bring in. What we have typically could just be a school. And
go back. You shall let it go. All right. You know, the knowledge that rests in you is always speaking about it as a party. It's got so many things that it can actualize in our country. It's got so much potential to change everything as we know it. The school example that he's speaking about, imagine if a school had title. Now, for a school to be able to access finances, either from Botswana Development Corporation or from pension funds or from BFIR, now there's a law which was passed, I think, last year or the year before, 2022, which says 40% of the funds that are held by these pension funds, investment funds, 40% of those funds needs to be invested in Botswana, in businesses or companies that are in Botswana. China in the stock exchange, in these different stock exchanges. 40% of their portfolio needs to be invested here. Now, the only thing that they worry themselves about is your ability to pay back and what asset you're collateralizing. Now, if the school in Mulepulule Borakalalo Primary School has title to their school, not only title to the whole land, but sectional title for every single classroom. Okay, every single classroom can have its own title deed. In the very same way, BHC or flat there, or flat there, live there next to it. All those are held under sectional title. Now, the very same way, that school can have each and every classroom, the admin block, the library, every building in there is accounted for in whole title. How much value do you think that school holds? Okay, the field has its own title, it's been subdivided. Now, the value of that whole school, if they take their property portfolio and present it to a pension fund and say, listen, we've got a valuation of 10 million or 5 million. From this pension fund, we only need 1 million, which is a fifth or 20% of our entire valuation. Now, banks finance you 70% of your value. If you're a business, it's 70 or 60%. If you're an individual, it's 80% of the net asset that you hold. Now, if they go and get 20% of their valuation, that 1 million, it's not coming from the fiscal budget, right? It's not coming from your taxpayers' money. They take that 1 million, develop that whole school, put projectors in the classrooms, tile their classrooms, connect internet in all the classrooms. They're no longer using chalks. They're now using a whiteboard with a projector and get a computer in every single classroom. 1 million pula is enough for a primary school. Now, how do we pay back your money? Each and every primary school has an annual budget that they get from the local government. Okay? Each and every school has an annual budget that they get from the local government. Now, that annual budget is for them to develop this, develop that, but they fail to develop because that money is so small. It can't make meaningful development. Now, that money is what they amortize. is the very money they start paying to who? BDC or to that pension fund monthly. Okay? They start doing that monthly, paying that money back. In the very same way, where now, how you go banking, you are paying back the bank, ka salary you are linked quid. Those drops fill that cup. For you to fill this bottle, drop, to improve the school needs water this much. That drop every year or every quarter. It will take you 50 years to save that money to go and make that development. But by going to BDC or to a pension fund and getting that water bottle, and then you start paying them back by these drops that you're getting every quarter. Not only that, these kids pay, I think, 100 fees per term or per annum. Those monies are what you amortize. Further than that, that money, you use it to create a service that people can pay to use. Outside the school, every single day, my son can attest to it. He's always asking, Daddy, why are people standing around the fence of the school every day? Guess what? It's people who are using the Wi-Fi just for. Because give my hand. Now, if the school creates a corner or a room that everyone can access internet, and all you have to do is pay 10 pula per month to access Wi-Fi, wire. They amortize that service to be able to service this very loan that they've taken to develop. Will the government need to use its own money to develop our schools and get them to private school status? No. They just have to get title and use that very title and the bank. Because remember, we were talking with Mr. Senior to a client. The moment you develop land, we're now on a piece of land. Dug up a hole, taken your money, put it in there, and buried it. Again, you've buried that money there. Now, to develop any further, don't go and look for new money to dig and put in there. No. Go dig up that very same money that you put in there, pull it out, and use it elsewhere. That's what the development cycle is. When you've poured money into the project or onto land, you have created equity out of that land. You have created value. I look for replace it's like 200,000 or 300,000. Don't tell yourself you've got 500,000. No. It's like you've planted a seed. That seed yields fruit. You've planted 5 million or 1 million and then now go back and draw that value out of that 1 million, out of that 200,000 and the 500,000 that you planted. That's how this cycle works. And we've adopted it already. We can't ignore it.
Yeah, absolutely. But either way, there is a tendency to sort of, how I maybe imagine this as we're creating this possibility on a lot of it. Clients have listened to us and said, hey, why is it? It feels that way when you hear this, what we think is good news. Almost already. We actually even laugh sometimes and say, what's and the minute you are alive, actually you need sustenance.
Yeah.
It's a question of how are you going to sustain yourself? Yeah. How are you going to
Yeah.
because it's online, aren't you better placed to accept the reality and make sure that your reality is grounded on the superstructure system that recognizes assets, that knows how to release equity, that allows you to be able to create a sustainable engagement with whatever it is that you're doing. So it shouldn't be happen, even to the extent where momentum might wonder, but the exposure of government assets to financial institutions. No, you can create an ecosystem within the country. In fact, the insurance, the pension funds are really supposed to be at the forefront of financing these projects that we're talking about. I think they're home-based. Yeah, I don't know if that portfolio, what percentage goes outside. I think too much has gone outside.
70%.
70%.
You don't allow me about
40.
40 look at but it will eventually.
And we need the money. And we look at the money's gone out. Then we see ourselves going to IMF to go and talk about getting a railway line. You understand? So it doesn't really add up to take money out when you could be using it for the local. Think about all the amenities that we can come. Think about the roads. Think about how we can improve our infrastructure. If you think about it like that, think about places like Bopi, where infrastructure is already there. What are the different phases to the same thing? Sometimes we invest in infrastructure and then we don't realize that we keep it dead. Like Pico is one such example. It's one of the most underutilized place that you can ever think of in the country. We've got all the infrastructure, including connectivity, rail. The airport is totally anything at one point. But in terms of the articulation about the custom, we are thinking of it. So, yeah.
It was just before the closure of the PMI. It's redone.
No.
It's resurfaced.
Yeah.
I had the opportunity to learn there after the night.
Was it? But now I'm sure it's sitting there with no. Yeah. You see. So how do we bring these things back? How do we? But we must be of one mind, and it is good that even if you have to have. Excuse me. Somebody wants to come. Hello.
Yeah,
Hello?
the caller wants me to touch on
Yeah.
one of the aspects of.
First
I
floor.
want you to get practical
Yeah. First floor.
means and ways to start converting your land into tangible value. As we explained, land is valuable, but there's means and ways in which you can acquire the most value out of it. So the farm to estate, that discussion that we had, I think it was the day or two back, farm to estates, where you take your ordinary 10-hectare farm and you package it in such a manner that allows you to have a house there, that allows you to have that function there, and get the most value out of it.
What are LMTs?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. What I can typically how we start talking about that similar I'll get to your other farm, but any land, if it's commercial and you wish to bring it into if it's commercial, hello. If it's commercial, like if you have a multi-residential property, you own it, but you have not sectionalized it, you have not rationalized it. So that every endeavor, any project, every land mass anyway, where we do activity on has to be rationalized. So you have a communal approach, but also a community approach. But also, when you have your own piece of land, you have your own 10 hectares, rationalize that 10 hectares. Don't say, I'm going to use it just, I'm going to do integrated farming as we say. No, make sure for every activity has got title that defines it. Your farmhouse is a title. It's a farmhouse, that's what it is. Litamite, talk about the title, litamite, I say cabbage. Cabbage is a title. You're starting book. I said, you put title, everybody. When has heard something, you see their own interact that. And the interact there, somebody can walk in, as I mentioned in my book, or when you drive into some of these estates, you will not even realize that there are multiple title scenarios. One of the women are a functional or there are many players. Everybody is doing what they're good at. The specialization is tip top because what I know like in the estate that I visited in Philippines, we grapes, certain types of grapes. Wine, storage, bottling, restaurant, the hotel. So you get these barriers, but it looks functional. As an estate, it looks pleasing to see an operation anywhere. But there's a management company that is managing the show and making sure everybody is meeting their obligations. Levies are being paid. The complexion of the the establishment is very pleasing because it's sustaining itself. So, anyway, design, if you have to be a jack of all trades and partake in all these activities, all power to you. But design it in such a manner that you are able to distinguish one that is failing and not let it take down all the rest. For example, I look at how will it take you can just have this to Hey, one more. Hey, Tamatis can have operations policy. Because even financing, and not finance at that cluster financing, and more, it takes away from final details of being able to see where the problem areas are. But what's I don't know, finding, it's also. And then where you want to end up from, you run the risk of it bringing down the whole operation because the loan is for the whole operation. But if it was separated, it's an operation in its own right. For management purposes, even if you are the holding company, you can have various companies under this one that make sure that we can troubleshoot the operation properly. And because all these things just boil down to detailing and organizing. So that's the whole principle. You want to detail and organize, and look on an information-based approach, as opposed to horata hobata. When we have a meeting of minds, like we are having a meeting of minds, and we almost like start to feel that this type of gospel or this type of message will take us somewhere. Then we also, this is a chord, I think it's chord 3 now. We also have an obligation for the spread, how we can get this thing to really take effect. How if we really get project more, what we should be working together. So we shouldn't think this is not just a classroom where I have dead knowledge. This is a classroom where life knowledge. So we need to talk and act together where we can. We should be able to look at scenarios and challenge ourselves to maybe a situation and say, can we approach this together using this understanding and see what it are, whether it is, and listen, there's no limit in terms of what we can do on the land. There's no limit. And there are people are out there waiting for us to come to see us organized in our thinking so that we can nail this good. That's why we are a development plan. We cannot have a development plan because how try a development plan, that is our anchor. Anyone who knows over the summary or the more development plan can we conquer that one? And if we can conquer that one, it will open the door for many more other things to happen. But I don't know we might aspire or not. All these things we will do. Some of them are vision, some of them are immediate. But as we work our way towards the vision, let us at least have a semblance of unison on the simpler things of life. Okay, people, can we please clean up Muchuti? Can we please clean up more design? Being tactical, I'll bring up the map and then show you where all these fields are leading over. And then show you where the layout and the zoning and what it looks like. Muchuti expire. 25. I don't want for the expire go ahead. Recently in their collective statement about it. So that going forward, even when the authorities determine what they determine, even though our leg is in already. And this should be a representative of everybody who owns land in the area. And that's not it's not a question of what read a little nosy and then go off on little silo missions to enrich ourselves. No, this thing is going to require an open approach. We would like to see change happen on a sober level, based on the merit of thoughts and presentation. It is airtight, it's guarded by law. We're not just wishful thinking. We don't want to just create mayhem. We want to organize ourselves to produce change. We're agents of change. So, how does someone come about again? Then the potential that's why I get the life of a development plan, how it is born, how it is then finally publicized. More cohort 3. That's what we'll do tonight. We will put the layout of the development plan. It's more like we have a haka. There's a haka I can say we need those. Must be signed. These guys can delay signing a development plan, by the way, because the people are not making any demands. about it. And when they are positioning themselves, they were, well, at least the previous guys, were positioning themselves to take advantage. And they would look and see, oh, okay, how do they sign up? What does that mean? Let's put certain things in place. Because they know how we sign up, the way final gazette like that, they give them section 20, subsection 8, the final gazette. How we immediately something happens. And they know that the voice is out now about development plans. So they're panicking because in the past they never had to contend with development plans. It was never an issue. The beautiful ones were not yet born. It was okay. They would just walk around because we are blessed. We're not blessed. Something is going on in the universe. Then we need to be about taking advantage of it. This is upload. We need to make a concerted effort to make sure that the minister all in place right now. To show what we are serious. There's no reason why we can take on about 2 issues. We can do a collective letter, we can continue to lobby, or whatever other ideas that, because when you have minds sitting together in a room like this one, there's definitely ideas that you have that can make this thing work much faster, or give ideas. Let's say ideas. Maybe this is the direction we want to go in. How do we get this done?
I think to answer basically what, not to answer, but to add on to what he had asked, because now we all see the value in understanding the development plan. In our heads, we see opportunities, but we also see there are some challenges there when it comes to implementing them on the ground. So maybe from starting from a document such as a lease or a customer grant for the farm that you've just spoken about. You have this 10-hectare farm. We all have this 10-hectare farm. In our individual areas, maybe this one is commercial, we want to change it into a commercial estate or a commercial hub. Home with agriculture, home with civic community. Starting from the certificate stage or from the lease stage, how do we convert? We go to land board, start with an SLT, we dodge land board, go straight to gates.
Not all of them are agricultural again. So when they are agricultural, there is agricultural land, zoned agricultural. The approach to that is totally different from land that is zoned non-agricultural, but the title or the certificate or the lease says agricultural. One of the distinction A. Okay. So how does a number way what is zoned agriculture? There are laws there that are in place. The 50% law, or 50% of it can be changed and rezoned into other uses. Yes. And you can do a subdivision up to a minimum of 1 hectare. That's for agricultural. When you're on agricultural land.
Based on the development.
Based on the development plan. Yes. The mistake that was made was people thought, I want the 50%. What are rezoned? Ke tlo bona ke re kana o tshwere stankara se se reng ploughing field no tsa go tla wa wena but mo o tshwere stankara has to check. This is what the importance of our group is. Anybody who na le tsimo gope kae o tlo tsara check lo residential plot o check what comes out, but ke tara go masimo thata because I know what that's where the bulk of the land is. To tie residential plot, chances are is residential. And then of course there are issues about it's a heritage land, but it never got converted into rights. Remember, and we have connections with Botswana has lost a lot of land. A lot of land. I remember getting some of the what that's the hard. What I do to vote in writing, what can I say? Landlord, what I know it got a limit. Remember, I don't know. Oh, two scenarios. Remember, I know how now think about it this way. I know what I'm saying. No one to work. I understand that. But I ain't something. What is it that they're taking? Kind of formalization of rights is important. So through the cracks, and our people don't understand these things. Then here's a challenge about it. Ona has in the last say waka gore motho wo rogile. Ya ba di tseno le di kana ba tshetse ba di oletsa. O ene ga ba letsa ba tsa eng. Ka gore ga ba tshwara sepe. Salone. So but no do based on what documentation? I get what so but they do refuse. For example, if your ancestral land falls within a planning area, they won't give you any rights. They refuse. That is the mentality that has been prevailing in pervasive. So that your rights are compromised, are gone, you don't have your right, you'll never get it. And how or my uncle and whatnot, you don't know. You can interrogate because you don't have the understanding. The way it should work is that first and foremost, everybody must be given that title in the right format, in the right way, before we talk about anything else. Equitable distribution. First and foremost, give me my land rights. It's my constitutional right to have my land rights in my hand. Then we can talk about what we do going forward. Yeah, but they don't do that. Especially, but we respect the high but I don't follow my classic. I recognize you and Kamala. They have got the opportunity in terms of the law to get their rights formalized. And the land boards have been reneging on that responsibility. So we need to do housekeeping. And housekeeping through your minds and those that you have influence over and you know about. So we need to keep these groups, these cohorts alive because they are radial contacts to other people who need help so that we can get this thing moving. So that each one of us represents many, many people. So it should be that we care about in fact, you have land, you're not going to claim it. And the regular has given no, it's not possible. Where were your parents living? Did they have? How you must be very careful about even how it translates into value. Like the other day, these are very subtle omissions. Has been on that job as a professional. But Pity, you have the temple. The long a bohol point. It's nothing like that. Bohol, we were not awarded the basically bohol. No, the hat. Bohol, you don't know. What we call integrated farming today is what depletes the system of water. Why can't we will go towards where there is water? But we lived there. Yeah, even if you go there, say to them, they tell them the ruins of where they used to live. When no one claim just the borehole point, no. So I've done an affidavit, I shared with you the group, where I lambasted them and showed them the perspective, their context there, the allocation is appealing in comparison to them. No, but hard claim just the borehole. Who claim the hands there, but they had settled, they had home, how the was integrated family, don't know how to be it, or subsistence again. How we would have to see one where we're staying, and then you'd have the water point. It was never just the water point. This whole thing of just the water points came later. We would settle where we had water, and all these things are done today under the auspices of an integrated farm. So when you are claiming a right from the past, bring context to it. Make sure that the understanding translates into what they would do today. And then also, but I agree about I'm saying, go and claim. Inspire others to go and claim land that they're not claim. Because the deal is on the table, or they can go and claim reports of a horse. Then you get your rights. I got the Mosaki. So you will get the witnesses that will sign off the form that will allow you to claim the land. But are so rich in terms of land. So rich. It's not even funny. But because we are spoiled for choice, we don't recognize it, we don't see any need. We think things are in the bundles. No. Just do your family trees. Like a 2 family tree. I did one with my grandfather. Went back, family tree going back for 300-400 years. Walked and found a place where my grandfather used to live. Somebody else lived there and said, no, I'm not there to take. I just wanted to appreciate. And it was also trying to do very funny things, very happy that when later nobody made any claim relevancy. Currently, so then we are just very happy that the family doesn't make a claim and they take the because the Baraba thing don't know when they never came forward. So, the roots. Go to your roots, you will find your land. You may find people on your land. And maybe, yes, by prescription, maybe they have adverse possession now because they've been there for so many years, you can't claim it back. But where you can and where there are no arguments, people should claim and put in applications. So, it's a parallel strategy. In terms of areas, saying those are low-hanging fruits, the Gaborone, peri-urban, Gaborone area, we must clean it out. Development plan, we must clean it out. We must get all these things sorted. We must finish these things. We must finish these things. Make sure bring them on board. We're going to have to look for a means. I know he's a great thinker. He will find a way of aggregating this thought into a consolidated force. Progress. At the end of the day, the teaching of it is the inspiring, to try to inspire the movement. Out of them, we will all have so many other things. We will have so many other businesses coming up. We'll have but if we spend days sitting and I tell you all these things, tell you about SLTs, tell you about multiple title concepts, tell you about sectional titles, I can tell you about limited in space, also titles in the air, and servitudes and all this. This is knowledge, right? But it won't change reality. What will change reality is to take one of those germs and convert it into something that can feed us, which is development plan. It's the first part of God. Out of the many things that I said, take the development plan and let's go meet these guys. How can we do it? Confused. But we don't want that. We want after really development plan. What they did is never talk about but I just remember there's a whole thing here. There's something report. Carbon report. By people then that carbon commission, report all the anomalies and the madness that they were engaged in. And they went and would say to people, let me just give you a scenario. They went to say to people, okay, but sitting on top of peri-urban land uses, one of these irregular titles. Okay, how many 4 hectares of the project is 6 out? Can they put the project 6? But when they said, I think people don't know. Or in fact, they've got 40 plots. They haven't seen the superimposition. So how to only put 6 or our gay? So they were cheating you in the first place. But people agreed, said, okay, I'll get that. But okay, I'm going to let see my poor people take back the field with up 6 plots. Then the next thing, no, that was illegal. The landlord was not supposed to have some landlord is not power or something like that. So Rabusa, one of those 6 plots. We're not involved in over here because my landlord never was Lisa. Was also how did that happen? How did that happen? I can you give me a resolution in the I'm taking it. So on traffic here, but election. Anything aligned with the development plan. Now, development plan is that confusion. It was never supposed to violate the development plan and its precepts, and never. That thing was not supposed to have happened. Remember, it's about compensation in kind. They'll come up with a fancy way. If I tell them a number, nobody knows it. If I buy a coiner, they buy execute. This is that's what happened to Modesign. Cutting anyway, I was involved for many years. But I don't know. We went about okay, also in Proton 40. But I'm Hanna. Or in Proton, I release a general Proton 40. About how decided you are not a swing plus 1%.
Yeah.
We can do that.
Sure.
No, no, there's something wrong happened. Bon, I don't tell you. If I saw about when you call them, I tell you, okay, well, after 2 years, you're very tired now, or you've been holding this thing that is not happening. And we're not going to tell you. That it puts a world trade. When important also for the Ronella 20 was a Ronella. Hello, Ronella 20. 20 was a give compensation. I fell off my bed. How can you put a compensation? Which mathematics are you using to arrive at that level of stupidity? And people cannot pay me back. It has got nothing to do with the law. It has got nothing to do with common sense. But it passed. That's Khadi. Because those are two scenarios of madness. Khadi Malero said, put in the house known as Ozana. Whatever says you no, come, what about the Pluto? But that was in bad faith. It was, but I understand you were so tired, and I couldn't also prevail because these guys were not going to reason. They will tell you, it was illegal what the sublet board did to allow you to have these plots. So those subdivisions were not supposed to be approved. But how about another 20? Immediately becomes legal.
It's
I had a number of those, both in cutting. I think I held on to the plot and said, I'm not giving away
Anything.
and it means I've lost 6 years of nothing.
In your life.
Yeah.
And we cannot afford for anyone to lose any more time. That's why when you're in the loss of time, when they punish you, Canada was punishing you.
Yeah.
So that you lose more time and they go back in power. By the way, they're planning to go back into power, right?
Yeah.
And then pull you more. And then hand over like to settle for what they want. Because I get that frustrating. Or you go to court, okay? And costs and time. So court, we don't want court over obvious things. That's why we want robust engagement. How do I want to minister? How do I want to peers? We don't want to do it outside support the outside your knowledge. More than other people that we don't interact with. At least we had an opportunity for explain what the outcry is so that hopefully you may support. And if you feel there's something we are saying that is not proper, that could be refined, because no one is 100%. If we've got errors in our thoughts, we'll correct before we go out, because we're going out. Unless I don't correct our time because going out we are. Okay, so we'll correct if you feel there's something untoward. But now all we are saying is that let it be a fair playing field, let it not undermine anybody's rights, let everybody have their titles still regular, let's have the playing field even for every Muslim. And then Hormata can do as he pleases Monday to our discharge, I'll comfortable.
I bet this resonates very well with the new government's policy our effort to have a human rights center.
Yes.
Okay. So what we're doing is a further of what they
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, I just want to take a quick, so that we have context there for what's the status also, the lay of the land. If you don't mind. Baka imohorona ba batho tseng land ili ditankanela just certificate. Ili customary, all right, ili stankana like it is certificate.
Yeah.
Okay, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, Baba Chuting Lahati Lisi. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, Baba Chuting need title deed. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. All right.
Yeah, look, the problem is SLT loan. It's not the right hand. I hope Halab and Nella the original.
Can I say, okay, for the SOTs, from my experience, we went to go and sign online. We were talking at the backlog. And what we recommend you do is some ipatala sabea, some you go to evaluation, and then come and submit.
No transfer.
No, this was true. Some of them submitted, some of them didn't transfer, but the main thing is compliance. For transfer, what they recommended is don't transfer guys. Keep your land grant transfer, attain that resolution, then at your own process and your own time.
Understand, yeah. If you've got a lease though.
Or yes,
If you've got a lease.
if you got customer land grant.
No, well, I mean, the great problem is certificate you go and you can do a session. Another certificate of customer account.
That was her advice.
Okay, now listen to my advice. If you've got a certificate, you are stuck because but there's a but what I want to SLT. How many lease?
What is SLT?
So the
The new form of title. Secure land title. The new form of title. And talking about a road company. And the government is struggling in producing them. We'll deal with that even in solutions and whatnot. But in short, it's a bit because the moment transfer your piece of land. If you go back to land, how long will I lease? Can I subdivide, for example? Let me give you an example. We'll say 1,000, 2,000 square meters, 1,000, 1,000, or keep. So typically what an ordinary person would do on the Rice Island one, what about some lease by the consent subdivision, the Mama Granta, house no Mama Granta, house no Sabia, Abasarenda, lease or my cancel about the SLTs. Now I'm against that because knowing the trouble they have with producing leases. What I say is keep your lease, get the subdivision permission. Once they've approved the subdivision permission, let's register this lease quantity as a registered lease and do what you call a sublease. Or you can create a sublease portion and the two sublease portions if you want, so that you can continue to whilst you wait for the SLT to perform. Now, if you've got a certificate, there's nothing you can do because certificate is on it. We can't register it contains. But what we can register with is lease. And once on any lease, that will enable you to do business, whatever subdivider, whatever transfer. Allow transfer, you don't need SLT. You can do a notarial deed of cession. You know, whatever consent there and body head. Just consent, they don't transfer.
So at this current moment, you can still convert from land grant to a lease. Then you can go
No,
to the
they won't give you a lease.
So if you are on certificate,
On your certificate, that's a problem. That's what the about the solution in me. As well as solution. Rabona problem for them. But we will suggest the solution to the minister. Our suggestion to the minister is we have no quabbles whatsoever with the SLT. It's a good idea because it brings land value to a much higher place and the air granta freehold status and investment. Well, good with it, but we are aware we're going to need challenge. We know the challenges, by the way, because we've done our own independent audit. Can we, in the meantime, in parallel to the SLT program, continue the leases? Continue the leases. I want to certificate. I don't want to lease in the track. Once we make SLT, how SLT is one, then we cancel the person is called in at this LCO about the SLT. We cancel this lease, this registered lease. What I say, me see the lease. Because the lease is on a lease or based on the deal that they don't struggle with producing them.
And ironically, this baffles me because these things also get revealed to us as time passes. Today, we read it again tomorrow as you was explaining. This is from a different angle. And it tells you also something. The Act, the new Tribal Land Act, 2018, it says, the only recognized form of title in all tribal land is the new one, which is the SLT, the Deed of Customary Land Grant. There is no one who should hold land in tribal territory if they are not holding it in that form, SLT. Meaning every other form of title has become illegal. And that period was given 6 months. Within 6 months, you should be holding an SLT. If you're not, then that land right that you're holding is invalid. It can't be proved with any other form. Then further down in the Act, it says they are allowed to keep giving leases. Further down in the Act, it speaks that leases can be given, but they have, in a way, shut that down and made it impossible for a lease to be turned out. So you are stuck if that's why you get a discount but certificate and the biggest number the certificate. And 10 hold certificates, 7 hold leases, 9 hold title deeds. So by this certificate, they've been cut out of entering the door capital automatically.
Yeah.
And if for 5 years, this started in 2022, this is year number 2, or going into year number 3, of people being cut out of the corridors of capital, it means really the economy, whether you like it or not, suffers in a way or form.
Yeah.
Because that huge number of people, this year, in 4 years, or retire, and after retire, bank is actually operate. How can we say zero? So there is a lot that you lose by merely holding that certificate. But there is a transition. How to say lease? That lease can be converted into a title deed, and that title deed gets you through the door of capital. Second, how to say certificate, and you transfer. You cannot really receive any other form of ownership besides a resolution. Vanilla the resolution. But that resolution is only a resolution. Tomorrow, as they are doing right now, however, tomorrow, no, Niki Sireg. Kana Niki, Kilunaba Lucin Pile, Haluta had Timuan. Lumpile did 6, 8, Kankan said it to the guy. Yeah, how I didn't let it a resolution. Revoke a resolution. So you see that that title is not really title because it can be easily ignored and shut down. And it does not get you into the door of capital. So that certificate that your hands are tied. But how to tell this, that lease can be converted into a title deed, and that title deed you can still trade. Yes, directly to deeds to Sako. You can then, now, as I was explaining the sub-lease one, if you now then want to sell, maybe who subdivided this title, title deed, because they cannot, how about you resolution as proof of Kana resisting can from you. Resisting says, no, resolution. Resolution, I can't go to the bank. If you're holding a title deed or a lease, there is a method in which resisting can also have a title deed and you remain with your title deed. Sub-lease. When you are sub-leasing, that sub-lease can be registered for deeds as what? Title, after getting permission for sub-lease. So you are not really, your hands are not tied. You can continue trading and continue transacting with that line. But it's a nuanced thing. You're now house it without now every resolution. Yet you can convert, you can create a sublease out of that mother property, sublease here, sublease there, and all those subleases are registered title.
Yes. I agree, I know, but basically what we're going to do is to try and solve the problem where SLT in the short term. Parallel request or parallel to the problems that we will also share the solutions to. Because there's a reason why the SLT is going through all that it's going through. And that those reasons really is How many conveyancer? Oh, you're going to go to the surveyor. Oh, but the problem. I think what they did when they started coming about no. Masavera, public private surveyors out of the equation, we do the survey again. And then go to the private surveyors to help them. That's how they even but then I they don't know conveyancing. It's actually conveyancing, this whole thing here, SLT. And it's quite complex because it's not only the registration, it's a title, it's a more working consolidation, more working extension, more working subdivision, more working change of land use, more working. So the SLT is multi-pronged in terms of what it's really SLT on the other side, but what it is addressing all sorts of scenarios that the children that we have employed, some of them don't have a clue. And then they were plugged because they are lawyers or whatever. They thought they didn't have the experience. I mean, convincing is such like a broad area. They talk about expertise. Even lawyers, some lawyers, they don't get into convincing. They hire convincing secretaries who have worked long enough and know the various permutations and how to get around the challenges. Ronaldo problem here expertise. Ronaldo problem here software, technical issues where we went and procured the software from Sweden, and this software is not friendly to Botswana, and the trainers are not the resident. So yeah, glitcher, what are the problems? How many units here? How much are the hectares? What's supposed to be square meters? So this whole thing just puts us, instead of doing an app, more like pay, come up with an app that will address this. So that's a software problem now. And then there is another problem here on SIV. The plots are not surveyed. And then there's another problem here on the requisite guy. So how do we address all these problems and make sure well, listen, because we know the problems, we will suggest them, but we can't do it outside support. Outside, wait. What we propose should have weight. But as I said, that's an SLT problem. Where the country has an SLT problem. It can be solved to release title. It's not even collecting on revenue. How every one of them is a collection for government. Transfer duties and what government will be collecting money, but he's not collecting because of the chokehold that's there or the stranglehold that's there in the process. It's not seamless. So we will do these things in a calculated manner and try not to. Give us a parallel provision. Will involve so indeed in the act. Maybe that's a good thing. It's a blessing in disguise. That they need to be the only form of title case. It's tricky so that business goes on, but we don't suspend or terminate the SLT program. No, it'll come out, it'll take time. I mean, it took us time to even perfect the NDC. A lot of people don't even know what the reality is called. Someone's like 18, the 1984, 1983, thereabouts. That's when we started getting leases. And it was hard. I mean, with the sketch planning, with terrorize and then body, took them ages to perfect that. Now they perfected it, and then when they perfected, they terminated and introduced one that they have no clue what they're doing. Where we didn't have title. So people don't have titles, but the resolution. You can't run an economy based on resolutions. No. What about development? Because they're complaining or they're not releasing funds. Because we're not the title like to bond and release funds. So that is also not happening. It is not good it's not healthy for the economy by any stretch of the imagination. If represent something reasonable, then we are trying to be reasonable men. And then if these can take root, then we would have solved the SLT problem. But we don't want to solve the SLT problem and leave the development. Because then we haven't achieved anything.
Actually, this SLT presents a very good opportunity to solve the development plan issue. Because everyone is now being forced to say, listen, your title now needs to go through the deeds registrar. So it's a very good opportunity, and this is the right time for it. Okay, ha ile gore ko land board ke submitile lease kana certificate se se reng plowing field kana se se reng mokgwa kana moraka. The moment it comes out of the deeds register, it's ka tswa ile mokgwa, it's ka tswa ile plowing field. I tswe e reflect se se nka mo development planning. So it's a good opportunity to also clean up on the whole development plan issue. Whatever comes out, let it be ready. Ha ile gore development plan is lay out there remote tshimong ya gago di plot 2020. Those coordinates are known because they are on the master plan. Again, those coordinates are high go tswela mo di a go tswela o hiwa ditlankana tsa gago di 12. But it's a big exercise. First things first, a re se ka gore ha ke hiwa stankana sa me se se tswang ko deeds se tswe se kwadilwe mixed use residential. Ke tla bona gore ke subdivide ya. So it's a great opportunity for whatever has gone in to the deeds gets sealed and regularized at the end.
Yes.
So I have a question. So how do someone had submitted their lease with the first year or that year SLT? Which logic?
No.
Well, my friend, let's understand. Was submitted original?
No, not me. I know someone.
Original. Hana copy.
I didn't check.
Which one?
But don't I do soft copy?
No, it's good. Soft copy go you move on and let's look at the LIR. I'm good. Or look at the LIR number. That LIR number is a file number of where those leases are filed. So hard you hand a copy because then the file exists unless they've destroyed the file. But I mean, I'm hopeful with leases because so kind of certificate and the file number, leasing in the file number. So hand a copy, we can go and request. I did a title. So down on the lease, you were not supposed to. If you knew better, you wouldn't have surrendered it for SLT. You would have said continue with your SLT, give them a copy, and then you continue with your life, which means register the title in the registered lease.
It's just that most I didn't go like you know for about whenever this land is trying to register so but
I know, I understand that, yeah. But how many copy? Yeah, we're on a copy, soft copy. Open it and look for the LIR. In fact, we can do the survey even with that copy. The survey can be done, and then about some when I have we can guide you on that. It's not a train smash. How do you see the upload and copy? Right.
One of mine is I had a piece, and then I got an approval for a change of use and subdivision. So now when I'm going to survey it, I got the nothing will run meeting about
Resolution.
so I had resolution, yeah, approval, yeah, both use and subdivision.
Right.
So I went there to survey. I've now surveyed,
Okay.
and I have the survey. Now I'm just trying to register the pieces, the pieces of things that I have.
Right. Okay. Go on in there. Already lease. The parent is a lease.
The parents-
Yes. Go in there. Be very careful at that step. Don't surrender to them. The
I
normal.
have surrendered. Like about the time they were saying surrender to the commissioner.
So when it's original. But you are in an LIR again. Only copy again. Yeah, it's fine. In an LIR, we can receive it. But more importantly, the process here of registering the SLT for these different pieces is what we are saying. For your own good, yes, let's make subleases for these. So they must give you permission, sublease permission, consent.
Consent for sublease.
Once they've given you consent for sublease, then you bring that consent and you bring those diagrams to the approval. And then we go to deeds and register notarial deeds of sublease, that title, and they will allow you to do business as you wait. It's
You can only do a sublease once
the parenthesis.
once the subdivision has been
Approved
So once the subdivision is approved, you ask for consent
For
for
sublease.
sublease.
then you are done for anybody.
Then you go to deeds. That's the way, brother.
So now,
Tata is better to go in and ask for some piece. Kana go find some piece. That one one. Got one piece of this.
So,
Going back and forth.
so like I was saying, right now I've tried to apply and I'm not done for subdivision. It's better ask to
Sublease again.
subdivision.
So I prefer both subdivision and sublease.
I would just at the same time.
yes.
Because when sublease, so that it is about it.
Once I have both of those resolutions, I can proceed with it.
Yes.
I don't do this.
I leases.
Yes.
I leases.
How does it work when you have a title deed?
When you have a title deed,
Yeah.
it works exactly the same way. Or travel land.
Yeah.
Yes. It works exactly the same. If you want to subdivide and sell portions of it, then you ask for permission for subdivision and for subleasing. So that once the subdivision is done, we can then now do notarialities of sublease. So you can transfer rights and the bank will release funds on the basis of the sublease. What we're trying to do is really think on our feet to allow people to get title in the meantime.
Yeah.
It's not the
Yeah,
real solution,
I
it's a
thought
temporary.
well, it was before this SLT business started. Like title deed. Almost like I'm just starting all over again.
Did you-
And again,
Oh, good for you, good for you. They've done that to even one of my clients, even a cancel like they did that. Like I'm ambitious, no cancel, no SLT. No, did I SLT before cancel? Did I SLT so that we exchange hands? Give me show SLT thing before I cancel this because how cancel? Or you know, you had that mess.
don't have any.
You don't have anything until they can give you the SLT. So yeah, no, since we have seen what about we are now saying don't even. If you have not cancelled, you did a good thing. Now what you can do is if you want to petition or whatever it is, ask for a sublease permission also from them. So that those petitions we can actualize them as sublease and notarialities of sublease. As we wait. Then you will get your SLTs for these small these portions of sublease. Yes.
So just to confirm that whether you hold your lease under title or you hold Telan using that document airline board, you can still do the sublease and get notarial.
Deed of sublease.
Yes.
Say that again. Ask again.
I think you can have your lease with travel and board, just the normal blue one.
Yes.
Then you can have your lease whereby now the old method we've gone to register of deeds, which are title deeds.
Mm-hmm.
So you can have it under two ways like
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
But in my thinking.
Okay, that blue document, again, the moment you take it through the deeds office and it gets out of the deeds office, it's now a registered lease. So the VCLM board is not a registered lease.
So we
It's
can't
not
do
a
some
lease. Yes, it's just a lease, but it's not a registered lease for deeds. So when you register it for deeds and it comes out of the deeds registrar's office, it is now a registered lease, which we call a title deed.
Yeah.
Okay. So the only difference, and the title deed, it's just that blue document put inside a deeds file showing that it's been registered. Again.
Yeah.
So that blue document, you can take it to deeds for registration. That same blue document, after getting permission from land board to sublease and subdivide, it can give birth to those notarial deeds of sublease. But it's not a blue one because it's not the land board issuing it. Okay? It's you who drafts that lease. Then that lease, when you draft it, you print it on a white paper, and then the diagrams that have been approved get attached, and that notarial deed of sublease gets registered. It has equal power to that blue one, which is registered at deeds. So both of them can be sold, can be traded with, bonded by the bank.
Yeah.
That notarial deed of sublease allows you through the door of capital.
Mm-hmm. Which is what we want. I guess.
Yeah. I hope it's clear.
So come on, I want to never eating, but I don't want to more. Now these are unique solutions that come from people who have suffered. You suffer first before you come up with a solution. By it or most people, by the way, have just thought there's no option. And they've gone there o na le subdivision o batla gore extra portion wa go bona ba o tsa transfer resolution
Yeah,
o tsa transfer resolution ba mo ebile di lawyers are allowing people to pay the balance on the basis of a resolution, which is wrong in conveyancing terms. Because how do you also abandon a deed? Then what if the deed never happens?
Yes. And with the land, yes.
I just want to understand something. So are you saying kind of originally the blue document? I can simply go to the deeds office to title.
Yes.
Yes, in a title deed.
Even I don't need to go through the land board.
As long as it's the lease. It's not
So-
I get the blue page. One of the blue certificate. You don't want any blue lease. That's why. Certificate is one page.
They quite an agreement of lease.
Yeah.
Right
Yes.
here.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
You don't have to go to land board.
But I also have a
Right.
question.
Sorry. Sorry.
Yeah, I just wanted to understand. So okay.
Yeah.
So the second question, was you I've been listening to you. I've listened to your some of your podcasts. I'm listening to you now. Who work subdivision? Yeah, let's see. I get it. And then having to have different titles for a hectare or whatever. I get it. What I'm wondering, Jorge, this exercise isn't it very expensive?
I'll explain the expensive part in this way. Which is the example that I gave on the podcast, the other Indian man that owns 800 hectares of home.
Yeah.
He owns 800 hectares. It's worth 20 million, the 800 hectares in a park. He's got a bond with the bank. It's being foreclosed. The bank, he comes for a solution. Then I say to him, I'll charge you 300,000 to do a subdivision of 140 whatever portions. He pays the 300,000, and I'm able to convert that 20 million asset into this 140 whatever portions. They revalue them, and then the valuation comes at 200 million. So he has paid me 300,000 to convert a 20 million asset into 200 million. So in terms of is it expensive? I say it's very cheap. Considering
You can charge me more.
I should have charged them more because I'm giving
Now you
them.
can you're charging a percentage of
Yes.
No.
But yeah, no, that's
He's just giving me ideas. A percentage of what you are
that
getting.
will increase.
Well, yeah. Some other men will come and do it.
So the subdivisions are only on paper. They are not physical.
Yes.
Yes. No.
This is what I want to understand about that.
Yes.
Okay.
This is why I'm asking you, is this exercise not very expensive? Because there is that fee, of course, but there is what you are representing on paper that you are claiming to be physical. That must actually translate to the physical part.
No. Let me understand you. Or maybe I can also add. I get it once I do the subdivision. I don't just do it on paper. I get a letter there. I even go to the ground and knock in pegs. And then we continue to get the survey approved. And we continue to get the approved survey converted into title. So it becomes so.
Fencing,
Yeah,
dividing by
this is me.
fence.
Yeah.
No, that one, that's the physical.
No.
It doesn't
doesn't
use
go
that
that
exercise.
far.
No,
No.
it doesn't.
When you do that, it becomes more expensive. The value goes higher.
Yes. So on paper, yes, you've got different portions. One of this line, you've got a title deed for this, a title deed for this. On paper, it doesn't mean you are forced to go and put a fence to show that
Yeah.
subdivision. But he has put pegs. Again, you know where this one starts and where this one stops, where this portion starts, where this portion stops. It doesn't mean the moment you put up a fence, well, if you want to, the value even goes even higher. But if you want to sell portions, it doesn't mean what you have on paper you are bound immediately to actualize it for the approval to be done there needs to be a visible fence seen. No.
Even the valuation is
Yes.
not the valuation of development, it's just of the land. One time
Yes.
the valuers of the bank actually, because it was a very interesting case, this one. The bank had at first, I can't remember for close. So they stand to gain if they can get this 20 million pula asset that they can chop up and make that money themselves if they wanted. But yeah, no, in them consenting there as a bondholder, or no, go ahead with the subdivision. You can do the subdivision, but our valuers in the panel, a bank, give whatever time they valuation after. No problem. Because I guess this is not Chicana designs. So we produced it, and they came and took the same panelists, the same valuers who had valued the 20 million to value these portions and give an aggregate figure with in the 20 million. And then after which we got them now exposure. I'll give I release your exposure and you give me back mine. That's what tells us a lot about Batoba Own and Ifabo. They are oversubscribed. They are over collateralized because Habataruhan, and it's not the bankers don't like this, but they will in the long term. It will benefit them too because we will bring more business. But obviously, whenever the plus when are we it's 6 by 6. Because an equivalent that you would have gotten from a few of the paddocks if those paddocks were converted into title. See, so titling gives that sort of it frees and unpacks the asset for it to gain more value and save you sometimes. Maybe 25% of what you are owing is what you need to give to the bank and keep. And this guy was 25% exactly. He kept the 75%. He still has it. The bank took 25.
Okay. My next question, of course, I understand what we are trying to achieve. We are trying to go for cases, but what I want to understand is, in the case one has a certificate of lender, this is a traditional one.
Customer is certificate of lender.
This concept that we are talking about, subdivision, does it apply? And if it does, how? Or if it does not apply?
Okay. No, actually, the format of ownership, a certificate of customary grant, you can still apply for subdivision also and be granted rights. Ghana, the level of subdivisions is more like a one planning authorities approving the proposal. Okay. The next tier is the surveyor getting the surveys approved by surveys and mapping. This is to make way for the registration of title. Again, it's a 3-tier process. It is to get, well, now it's 4. You get consent of land board. You get the subdivision approval, which now land board handles. They've incorporated that function. Now they've made themselves a plan authority. So they'll do that. They'll do the subdivision for you. And then the surveyor will come in and do the survey diagrams. And then now we go to deeds to register the deed. Now the challenge, the certificate. We cannot register certificates or deeds. Therefore, we can't do subleasing or deeds. That's why we are at the mercy of the SLT process there. Because they've stopped producing leases. In the olden days, you would take the certificate and then ask. In the olden days, basically, actually, this is the way we do it. You would get all these processes done and get subdivision approval and the survey diagrams done, and then go back to land board for them to give you leases. That you would then go to deeds and register individual leases. Which on that today we are saying, if you were able to get a lease, we can do it. If you had a lease instead of a certificate, we can do the sublease. But in principle, you can do it. The challenge is on the SLT, SLT.
You will now trade in resolution.
On a resolution. We were no say I'm Luena, but resolution is the same. So the resolution, our correct opportunity. Horrible exchange of money, resolution. And then also facilitate. Ghana never pays. Well, Ghana supposed to. Let's let us know. There's no facilitate that he says. About joining. There's pressure. This kind of the agreement is that the resolution they are valid. No, they are not. they're not valid at all because there's no protection for the seller, the buyer. So the answer justificate similarly that we try carefully with it, but hence the agency for us to go and ask for leases to come back.
Yeah.
But the SLT, generally today we require an SLT problem, the development plan. I want us to keep them separate. Development planning, you will really challenge here this cohort. We need to in fact bring all these three cohorts together and deal with the development plan, the issue of minister where to from here. And then SLT on a parallel, disabilities, how to get around the problem and how to help government solve the problem.
No, let me give you a scenario. It's a case that I think I'm giving you some sneakers of it in some of our discussions. But here's the scenario. You've got a piece of land. It was allocated as an orchard, so it's agricultural.
No,
it's not.
I don't know. Is it on a development plan?
It's sitting on a development plan.
What does the development plan say?
The development plan says it must stay.
Okay, so go ahead with the story.
Yeah. So now we approach the authorities through BITC. Because now we said we are turning it into an industrial park.
Right.
We've done a high level overview of subdivisions.
Yeah.
We've shown them the proof of capital that these are the projects we are going to do. 200 million projects going to produce about 400 jobs. So please facilitate and ask the landlord to now regularize, help us comply with the development plan so that we don't have that word orchard in the title. We have what? Industrial.
Yes.
Then the EITC talk to the landlord and say we've got a climate change, we've got a big development project. But before we submit on that behalf, as we always do for projects that we need at a certain threshold, we just want to check with you. Please guide us. That means probably they ask BITC rights, and then they write back and say, no, we cannot facilitate that application for regulation because one, in 2022 we told those people, the owner of that piece of land, that we would like to take the land for village expansion. And that land is actually zoned residential. So you see, they don't even know what that development plan is. They're saying the land is zoned residential. And the DITs were so embarrassed when I went there to discuss it. Here's the plan.
Yes,
This is industrial. You have not done your own research as another government institution. You are supposed to be knowledgeable.
In other words, they would respond the same way, even if it was industrial. But that's basically what they're saying.
So earlier on we did say that there's another way in which you can get around that problem.
Yes.
Which is to go direct
Yes.
and have
The endorsement.
Update
The title.
the title.
Yeah.
And then when I've got it now updated area industrial,
Then you go back to
then I go back to them and say,
Yeah.
that is industrial. I don't know now expand the residential. Like it's industrial.
Yes.
Which is aligned with the development.
Yes. But you see, when we do that, we don't want to do that as though there's something under the table.
No, it's above board.
No, it's totally above board. It is also prudent to put the record to landlord straight. A sobering letter, the reality of this, what you have said to them and what they've said back to you. And that's kind of confuse acquisition to be mutually exclusive with compliance. They have this mentality.
Whatever they are, but there's no need to comply.
Because it was
And you know,
they get confused. They think for it. But what compliance comes first. You cannot take an irregular title, by the way. Because outside the irregular, it's an irregular title. And outside the irregular title, what market value are you going to apply? Exactly. And how do I regularize it? Then you can take seamlessly.
and you know what? Refuse okay, I don't like using that word, but it's the truth. Refuse acquisition when you're not holding regular title. Don't allow it
Yeah.
because you are being a party to that wrong.
Yes.
You are being, you are now signing over to the thing sharp. First things first, regularize the title. The title that you hold, if you have to transact in it, how can WhatsApp blue book koloi yone number isupa gore the color is blue, kana engine we change it, but on the blue book the engine hasn't changed. The chassis is different. That needs to be regularized first before the transfer happens. So Luwena, listen sa gago kwa rua go dira passport e ntšha o change passport e kgolo-kgolo bo ba tsaya senepe se se kgolo-kgolo ka gore se teng mo systeming ba se manega mo passport-eng e ntšha. No, they take a new picture of yours. Regularize before you trade. Before they take, and as Mr. Sissinho was saying, these are two separate transactions, regularization and acquisition. One should not stop the other. They can't stop you from complying and regularizing because they want to acquire.
But that's what I said.
Actually,
They
they
like
need
to do
to.
that. But I believe the machines will comply. And you know, also another problem is that now the where and mind that says to you, I don't want to hear the noise of what makes them think the way they do. Because you see, the problem is entertaining them.
Yeah.
They're very hypnotic, I found over the years. Give us the man how we are doing. But now hypnotize. Why allow what can happen? But we are just going to because they have their reasons. But that is true. We're very sad over that reality. But you know that is not the reason why. But it's moment. Then when the woman say I send the problem. The resources, and then you are now attacking people and making them feel bad for what they own. So if they have regularized, then they can take according to the law. If the law says it, we respect it, and we don't want to advise anyone to get into transactions. It's some common understanding that you have been lured into by hypnotic people or hypnotists and contortionists.
And again, compensation doesn't last forever. How about to acquire? That notice of acquisition does not last forever.
Exactly.
It's not like they should hold you
That
accountable.
going to be my next question.
2020.
I
want to tell you, 2024.
It wasn't even written. They just called us.
No.
So there's no notice.
Yeah, that's another thing. Another thing I want to mention, guys, these authorities never ever interact with them without anything in writing. Never. That should come to a total end. Those you must have a paper trail of all your. Listen to me, Kimmy. No,
The bureaucrats are still
exactly.
saying,
I want to say that. I wanted to say that. This is why we need to be so sensitized because the very same people who were giving advice to the old regime, people, and they still hold the same stereotypes. Stereotypes. There are people who suspended presidential directives. But suspend their own presidential directive. Director Mamon. When we started coming en masse, layout, for interpretation or 50% of higher we were about suspend. Then 2020, and high suspend you are doing it. You know what the excuses were? We started the team with the food security, it's not the members on right. I was infrastructure is not enough. One of the conversations that a friend, the former HU now, HU lady who decided I promise who are change I want to see this. Motako was a HU, what not tower get the hotel, a house and 300, 400 people. Me agree to the deployed 40. Kata on infrastructure. Miki on or like Musimunyami, Hotel, it's because you are running away from the real source of money for a residential, colony plot, and it will turn things around. So they'll look for anything to stop that. That's still there. Even I'm happy you are reminding me now because you're bringing back my former anger. Keep on.
Former anger.
So it's like, what is difficult to say? And that's why we need to be alert because how do prefer minister? Prefer the peers are bad. This should not be. Yeah, we talk to them just like we're talking to you because there's nothing. This is not mafioso espionage or anything. This is straight eye to eye, squarely. Yeah, exchange. But how there is no misgiving. Because that's what the law has captured. And that's what it's not our feelings. It's the law capturing that for a purpose to help people develop. Even achieve the very equity they are looking for.
Yeah.
You can only do it if you give people that right.
And it's a constitutional
Baseline.
right.
And it's a
Yes.
constitutional right. So
Thank you. From what you are saying, what I can think of, are you saying we should look for, if I have
I'm in election.
say, someone,
Yes.
I should be looking for the development plan.
Yes.
And then, then I should go to who to change. If I see it has been rezoned,
Yes.
then I should actively Nakwano before they come to me.
Yes.
Yes.
Go and change land use.
Yes. Good, in fact, what we would advise everyone, because they do not have, agree, there's so much of this debate, this masterclass kind of where, or a government don't really to help provide services to us. And yeah, who comply. We tend to under change of land use. We tend to under the provision of services here, change of land use. You got in compliance. Because now I intend to offer services. So how we eat. So that's why you need hand holding sometimes. Again, we eat or how we tell that provision. So but there are avenues. One, Arab planning hotel or consent.
Consent, yeah,
Yeah, change of land use. This subdivision rights. What allows I told you?
Sublease.
Establish. So what does it allow? They are playing a hell of it for fun. You're gonna need them at some point. Don't wait.
How long is consent valid for?
No, consent is they don't have a period for
So consent that 2022.
yeah, for this campaign. Yeah. So you have consent subdivision, consent there, change of land use, consent sublease for all your property.
Have them.
Just have them. Because if you need them, then you don't have to start for a line of consent. Wouldn't know it's good. But I'm saying that because
Can you mention them again?
consent for a change of land use, consent for subdivision, and consent for sublease. They're critical. Because the act, we need consent talent board. So these three are critical. The guy initially was saying, so once we've got consent for change of land use, consent for subdivision, consent for sublease permission, then we are standing pretty. So we are how we execute the actual process air compliance. How we navigate. You can others that I found. One that I did again, we just went, we took the consent and then we took the development plan and went straight to the deed register. Total na higher register the title. I proposed the deed register. We are putting them under a hot seat.
Yeah.
In fact, one said, I didn't want to approve one. They are activity. Have I used they're not used to but I used to control about pizza, how about I be positive?
Yeah.
They have a problem. You have to know that.
You know,
It's unfortunate, but they are like that. So when they see, it's not about what's right or wrong. It's just too many good things coming to the people.
Yeah.
Then they'll just has sort of military removal of restrictions. Or no. There's another act. The act on the removal of restrictions. The idea. Because what gazette you what the endorsement is it's 2 weeks.
and they are
Or it's all
You know, like we said, we've got beautiful laws. Yeah, removal of restrictions. It allows you to go to the deeds registrar to remove a restriction that is on your title. Your title has restrictions like don't do this, don't do that. That act allows you to go to the deeds registrar to remove a restriction. If you are restricted on the use that you can use that land for, it's a restriction again. You can go and remove that restriction. Now that act says, first go and bring that application for why do you want that restriction removed.
Yeah.
Then the registrar is mandated to gazette and say, okay, everyone in this country who is against this guy removing that restriction, bring forth your reasons. And any party that is interested, which is the land board if it's on tribal land, and the council because it's a use, the land use, it's a planning thing. The registrar writes them letters to say, hey, there's someone who wants this restriction removed. Show cause why we should not remove that restriction. In 30 days, if no one has made noise from the gazette, from the land board, has not shown cause why, then the registrar needs to write a recommendation to the minister. And we love it when it goes to the minister, because the minister is mandated by Section 3.
No, but you see, brother, that removal of restriction, it does not deal with land on development plans. Removal of restriction, if it does, you have made an application, a proper application to change the use, the proper use of a piece of land into another use, and you were granted that.
Yes.
That's why I gazette. It's not a removal of restriction in that sense. It's an endorsement. If you come another section of the registry, it's only when you have applied for a change of land use, a valid, authentic, in a use or development plan. If it's inside the development plan, the use is use X. When you go over where you are use Z. How can you removal of restrictions? May development plan. You are not doing removal of restrictions because there's no need to gazette anything. Now they want to duplicate this gazetting mechanism. What's
Don't need.
I get development plan. Why are you going back to do what was done?
Anyone, that gazetting, it serves the very same purpose as the gazetting removal of restrictions. Anyone who has a problem with this development plan, raise your voice and
now
speak.
or forever hold your peace.
If it's the land board, if it's your neighbor, if it's the Kosi, if it's ancestors, let them raise those issues. If no one raises issues,
That's that.
then the land board, they raise issues. It's too late.
And the same people, Ghana land board are a party. That's why this court will do even the process of development plan. Ghana, the formulation of the development plan, land board are key. By the committee, they rezone your piece of land. And the following day, an erroneous grant. It's not like they don't know. How because they were party to the process. They were key. The land board, the council, the public, and other are stakeholders, and the very key stakeholders in the process. So they know that the development planning need the uses that they think to. Or they believe by the notion the uses of their board, implement that. That's the unfortunate that we are wanting to disabuse them of. And that's why because that's why you're as it developed for so long. Because land boards, they don't have the capacity, they don't have the ability, they don't have the wherewithal or the finances. You want to stop the public from realizing that which you can realize. But so we're not partners in development. But in fact, the law never intended for them to own the development plan. The development plan, how about we want to function in a majestic way? Even a motropo, like state land. There's no everything is aligned there. Yeah. How about one ploto we visa residential, an industrial ploto, you never get those things. So this was packed nicely. Agriculture is on agriculture. How about I'm not touching? What about copy? About the this is you. If you hold that gazette, I copy about change from what it was in the development plan. But the robot is seamless in land uses. And all we are asking is that tribal land must adopt the same complexion as the trop. That's why the trop is really vibrant economically, more than because development plans in trop are active. They're not just an idea. Some moments in China, that's just an idea. We've just put them there as an idea. So we need to come away from development planning, really the idea, and make them reality. Because that reality is capital, as brother said. For us, our children, there was a question earlier. Did it get answered by the Spirit?
No, but somehow I'm grateful for what you just said because the Kerala blocked us somewhere and normally my brother is an architect, he does some work for me. So he like to submit this document, it was for subdivision and our title deed. They requested him for the title deed. So before then, luckily make him a follow that because it's a commercial plot. So I was just on my way for the Monday, I was submit the cancellation at title deed.
Robert, you must not
So I'm in total shock.
It ain't gonna happen. But we need to do a lot
But
more
it's
work.
also expensive sometimes. I'm just thinking, well, because you have your brother, you think he knows everything. And it's expensive to do cheap, ne? Yeah. Hey, okay.
No, Haba can, like I say, even more. I mean, look at what they did to Brother's land. This is my client's land. Compensation in kind. What is that? We'll give you so many plots in meaning. Sometimes you can't just fake it. It's a cancel title deed. I'm struggling in my head what I'm going to do to restore it because the way it was cancelled was improper. I just want to try to cancel to can he come back to life because they said to him, what is that? Sakwan, but I'm not reported to the so, Hansa, I'm using protect, but no, cancel title deed. But can I go of course, we can say. Hands are be protected. Hundred of them are no more than no for this.
So whatever this was unlawfully cancelled.
No, but maybe what is interesting, since when
That's what I want to use that to reverse this.
Yeah.
Since
That one was,
when?
because that one was based on this one.
Exactly, brother. That's why I want to know what is the mechanism. What is it to restore? And I know if I don't know, brother. We need to find that out.
Title did I cancel land board? Since when does land board cancel title?
No, the way cancel title deeds are cancelled is it's an application to the registrar, but involve you, the leasee, and the consent of the lessor. So, Baba consent there. Also consent.
Yeah, because that's what I was saying. They want my consent.
That's why it's a title deed. The two parties that entered into an agreement must agree for the registrar to effect it. If the other doesn't, then they need a court order. So, Baba consent there, the original.
So part of the agreement, they did not document what they had
Agreed. Why they're doing it?
I mean, in partnership with what's there. For the canceller.
I hear you. I hear you. There is an endorsement, but you would wonder in the proper setting, that endorsement must contain the actual action and the agreement.
Yeah.
But knowing them, it could just be an endorsement there or consent for cancellation. What I cancel what are the possibilities? But now we will get the minutes and then see what. The only question that I'm having is when a title deed is cancelled unlawfully, when you restore it, you need a court order. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Because it's title.
Yeah.
What that one?
I'm trying to figure out.
Can you do it outside the court order? I don't think so. I don't think I can manage. But these are things I got to go homework, my friend. They can say that's
Poking my head.
But these are the things that people go through. I was mentioning it just because you are about to do and it's a lack of just little knowledge here on the go. So we need to be smart. Otherwise, we think what's on the point about the boxes How did we do? How did we?
It's 2019.
Why would, huh?
It was cancelled in 2019.
Yeah, and from 2019 up to now, you can train
Nothing
nothing
material.
nothing materially loses all the income. Who will pay? Nobody. Nobody will take accountability. What did Solo say? Because also still say easy. But what is the laser fairness of being able to compromise value and development and progress unlawfully? Unlawfully. Ke batho ba dira as na gape le bone batho ba leng bone ga bana a thorough knowledge of what they're doing. This is also another problem.
Yeah.
They also need to be workshopped a lot. How about cancel? You know what they think a resolution? Yeah, boy. Can I help? How about pass a resolution? You tell about the how about one resolution about the plot? Wait about it. But can the actual exercise? Yeah, what's that? Kiss session. Yeah, how now what see the right? So when I cannot take it. How until I've seen the rest to you? How was it again? But they've got that mentality, and a lot of the transactions are floating. But what's active? Whenever a resolution is said, he just speaks like that. Come on, you're not going to have a home school. You're no problem. You don't want to listen to what is the home school. But also tell you, made the resolution there. You can say it.
I have a friend who actually was even paid compensation, non-social tax.
Imagine how you pay somebody the effect of title. They don't even understand what title is. That's why they can produce irregular titles.
Yeah.
Irregular documents that leads to irregular titles. They don't know. But this is our people. It's fine. We're going to teach them. And that is the whole effort where we need to make sure we don't miss this train.
You know, and the other thing, guys, it's our duty and it's your duty. These lessons and these classes are so that you are also informed. We are well informed. You're not just say, when how say. That's why we quote the act. That's why we like quoting acts. This act, section small, subsection small. So that when you speak with that authority. And when you know what the act says, you walk in there boldly and confidently. In the same way, you said, seek ye first the kingdom of God and everything shall be added. I think you have no confidence in it. Same out and on board. Use that same confidence because you know you've got the backing of the law. I always repeat these words. We are not just giving you cunningly devised fables. These are real things that are living in the laws that were passed in Parliament.
Yeah.
This is, and the law is not Father Christmas, and the courts are not Father Christmas. They will not give you a right that you have not invoked. You will not receive what you've not asked for and pressed for. So, unless you show them, acquisition is governed by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you do not apply this, you cannot acquire. They will bark and bark and bark. Just be calm as a cucumber and just point your finger on the act and just look aside. That confidence, it will panel beat them into shape. It's not only engaging with them for a workshop that will get them thinking straight. Your engagement and you pointing to the law and not barging also works towards panel beating them into shape and shaping the kind of culture and society we want.
Absolutely, brother. They will pass a resolution, and then after they pass a resolution, they think it's immediately implementable. When in fact, the resolution you've got 30 days to mull over it, and if you are not happy, you can appeal it. They can't act on it because bypass it. After the 30 days, if you have not appealed it, then of course you have, in a way, consented. But how will appeal? They wait for the appeal process. But the language in the corridors, that killing field, that's the procedure. Allow us time to go and decide whether we're appealing or not. If we have grounds, we will appeal. So it's all these little fine details of how things are done. What's what I need to say to you, what activities that's that? Don't even think for this ignorance is just land board. What land board is the most embarrassing. You go in, you want to try and embarrass more we're already in our institutions in terms of land and understanding the land and how it works. How they but one of that, there's a client of mine, we plus big field. Imagine Taro like was A1, A something. They go viral. Motor title. This is the title deed for the plot. Whenever I run, how you receive after that. Why did you want? Again, Motorona title deed. It's a thing that I want to take. But no, but I need to clean up this. No, already analysis. Get better roads. I can claim. No, we need to fix it. They want to have no, but very suspicious. I can see where everybody. No, remove it. Remove it. So oh, okay. What do you so on Araka? But remove it. Still, we must fix this because how do we do it? Mariano, answer what I did in your house. How do you welcome? So God, still, you don't have rights. Remove it. What are you going to show? What remove it? So it's clumsy. The way you do things, you just pay people. And then you don't have records.
Don't actualize.
In the actualization of a servitude. Servitude is only the rights. It's a so the third buyer, fourth buyer is endorsed on that title. What activity says done that en masse. That's how we run to.
Come on, got baggy.
I didn't like to title roads, why it is important. And they looked at me and I remember I was listening about the gender rights. I mean, this knowledge is so high. How would I so back on board?
And how shallow is that?
It's a substance. What is in it? What is it really after this guy? But what we're really after, they can't even imagine. They shouldn't even bother themselves what inspires us. Because what I'm confused. What we're really after is too big for their brains. So they must listen. And really go it's our the pipeline, the water drain, every time you look at your property, look at things. How drain, public drain. This is what does an old woman know? But it's an open drain through a field, what they call a field. It's been like that for years. This is a public utility. It's more tackling private property. You need to register it and compensate. I'm not even going to talk about to backdate because then you'll get dizzy. Just let's do it now. We'll do the value as at today. Even how the old lady will sign the servitude in your favor. Then you know whatever happens to this piece of land, you will always have your record. I want to be buyer for because the front buyer had that height. What institution you're not in a hell of it, it's what it's about to be inside that check. Now, this is how you can actually end up looting funds, actually. Because there are things that will not. In fact, there was a lot of that actually. I believe I met people when they were my next issue was again by. They were talking about projects, water or something. And then they go for a little Baba told you, Papa, you have a mind. What is so romantic? And about me, somehow there's some money that we give it. And because there's no quantification, there's no proper registration, there's no proper accounting for what we're doing, then we end up in the dark. And we shouldn't. There's no reason whatsoever why we should be operating like in the Stone Ages, in the day of Ages and more. So this is very basic. It's with a straight face. So in fact, we don't work with a straight face.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a day by day conversation. I talk, you talk, we listen, we think. If you've got questions, ask. If I can't answer, we will find somebody who will answer. But then we need to clean it up. Yarumi, please don't forget development plan is our main task. Ke one hela e leng gore ha re tsogela Monday ha go theohela. Nna ke yone ke tlo ke go eletsa ka yone eo. Ha le mpona mo di-podcasting, development plan yana. Ebile eo is not going to, we're not backing off on that one. That one must happen.
It's a must.
Then SLT, we're going to give it its truth. So by our attention, you know, because it's an equal evil, it's an equal handicap. We are decapitated. But we need stories and development planning. But it's all what I carabo. Sabo, and it's not how you feel, because it's very easy to let your feelings overshadow what the law says. And when you do that, you create a crazy society. There's a reason why development plans were put into effect. There's a reason why the white man came up with them. Very big reason. And that reason, how can I observe? And even beyond.
That's the thing. I have an itch.
All right.
We said
That's right.
conversation now, the last
Yes.
yeah, the symmetry.
Yeah, I thought of that just yesterday.
Yes, I want to know where can I start with my research. What the hell are my hope? How na le phumolo tshepiso le no santso a ka bona go rotsa nga ka mo disymmetry, but ga ke itse gore nka simolla ke batla ga gore even la how bua ka bona go development plan. Ga ke itse gore a ona masimo a ke na lone a ba a setseng a le mo motseng go mahala a nka le ka go approach yone land board ke ba ke batla go change the land use to symmetry and take it from there and see what the barriers are.
Yeah, no, it's but you know what? It's actually I was thinking about it. You better pursue it. And of the three uses in the consent subdivision, it are covered by the applications and consent. Pursue this, sister. It's a very, very powerful idea. And in fact, to motivate it, it is motivating an application. In fact, you will meet planners. I know one planner says to me, I like it because nothing is impossible. Yes. We can't think impossibilities. So, on my small holding company already without permission. So there is a culture. You know about right? So how difficult would it be to motivate the use of that land for burial purposes when culturally we are known to actually bury where we live? So there is an element of credibility to that change of land use. But also, you are going to be providing a service, SEO in that area. And we needed to wait for a man to come all the way from Eastern Europe. Those two. I want to say President Angaso is the idea that little Nayanu, well and good, we have copied the idea. We are happy, we must thank him and go out there and go and make decent burial grounds for our people. You can do that. Mahalapota first ever burial ground, in a model that you model similar to the models that we go around espousing around the asset towards the income stream near that asset. So, but why you? That's what I'm talking about. He's just a rich man that are making money from death, so easy. Because it's a very easy operation. What is complicated about what? And remember, I didn't. But to back into the future, certain things you cannot outsource. It's a pomolo. Like the service, I think you pay something for that too. So, and it's not a kind of thing, when I listen to our data peaceful, they're not complaining.
People from even far away from area.
I can't now. People want this area grounds. Because that's what about the in the future that we can. Because it's a I don't know, I remember father. His father passed away, he was 20 years old when his father passed away. And then when I asked him, he didn't even know his father was buried. That was so traumatic for me. What else are you eating? Really be that what are those things? But if I were to go there today, it would please me. So if you've got decent burial grounds, it will allow for the culture of visitation of the dead and the hobo to maintain, and people have, so I'm on it. I will help.
No, definitely. And in coming up with that, advancing your reasons, that motivation, we can take a look at what the bylaws says, the regulations, environmental act, all those things. If you put them, the motivation that you'll be writing, it will be a very fit and strong one, and a strong case also, advance a business case for a bank to finance the whole enterprise. It can really be built on a very strong business and legal case. Where by the time more heads I got that process, it's catchy. You're actually actualizing the value of that land. And you can do it better than Pumolo.
I plan to.
Yeah, I can smell it too. I told you last time that I'm your first client. I'll be set to.
So
Why not?
no, it's a very powerful idea. Very powerful. In fact, they actually are just as they lend themselves to the same thing as hospitals, as parks, as they need title. So that they improve anything.
Yes.
You need to create it doesn't bring, I think it's where the secrets are. So and it's not improve those that are existing. I don't worry, but even nominally the fee I don't even know what fees are charged. I don't know, but I mean everything must be paid for. Or if you're not paid, somebody else is. So there's never a thing of thinking, no, many other people want to have things done for them. We know everything must be paid for, and nothing should be a favor. But it's just how we fashion the structure of paying, how we make sure even the token are incorporated nicely, and how we amortize along longer periods to make it possible to afford the facilities. There are many ways of killing a cat. As long as we agree it's a cat, then we'll look for a solution to see how do we make this work. It cannot obtain personal title. No, it can't. Otherwise, you just have rundown symmetries. Even if they are right at the which in between that. But we can improve them, put walls. But they must get title. The park, they won't develop these parks without title. They must forget it. The other court, even in the Local Government Act, we actually even found it written in there for local government as the mandate to go and borrow money. If it's written, who just straight to the council, when I know a mandate, no, I always borrow a Kakala or Kanya, one of the possibilities of Kawa, like when my get the asset. Then, what sort of mode are you operating in?
I realized VDCs don't own title, don't have title.
No, they don't.
Houses.
No, you hold that. What I not title? It's not a woman's in VDC, everything. Hold
That's shocking.
Yeah.
VDCs, all these houses they are renting out. I sat with the VDC in Mudapuru,
Imagine.
trying to show them these things. They told me, mister, Karabo, look at the take it to go cancel it.
Matata purpose. We never understood. Yes, I think it's part of evolution about the growing of the people. The white man, how to title, he hears a totally different sound. Totally. That's why one day I spoke emotionally. I want us to look at land the same way the white man looks at land. He doesn't see it the way we both have eyes. His are blue. But the way he sees land, He sees it like an explorer, like a discoverer. I mean, that's why Sasuzo Rose could say, I'm going to Cairo. And okay, because that's what I'm saying. Couldn't have another person. He could see it because he understood the mechanism, what they provide. Not in a short-sighted way, not in a myopic African way, a colonized way, where, and the kind of map I like to bring in the aspect of the history, how we got to this mentality and understanding what they never wanted us. This is the worst nightmare for those who colonized us. They're coming into knowledge, the realization of the secret of how it actually works. We were never supposed to find this out. There are nations, big nations, much bigger than us, who are as far away from this knowledge as the North is from the South. There was South Africa, whatever transnet, maybe right inside the knowledge. This thing can occur in a title concept or a share capital concept. In other words, what about some but they make sure all these markets have a relationship, a bankable. How about the social club? We take area 1 way, area 2 go people. But it's more surety. Get the salaries, any member, as any can come in, and they can use those contracts to raise capital to improve Homo. But that's that title. Because I want my people to understand title first. But how about some make a game? It is just moving assets, surety, but amortizing income.
They don't have time. Maybe amortizing the lease.
Yes.
Not turning out.
You know, you've just
They are
opened
doing
my
things.
eyes to something. One thing that I was talking about with some of my friends, because we now I get to go talking about my dad from that side. My mom can also go. So and just seeing how it has deteriorated over time. And then we also had a conversation about how mines when now DC will go the management here, but
Yes.
It almost like a decline. And you wonder but those people were they not mentored in what's happening?
Not in that knowledge.
And now that you say that, it really opens my eyes for but you don't know what
the next thing, Harry take over this thing. Because they took away what the knowledge is that they used to maintain this. They were not spending the money that is being spent is the same. We still spend the same, even more, but we don't know how to make sure that money stays in that ecosystem. It's just about a day in our ecosystem and out. The Jews know when you keep money circulating amongst yourself as long as you can. How can I keep it forever? Do. That's how money works. You must stay there. How try to reduce your potential, your ability. So my dear sister,
And we
who's buying woman. So we don't need them actually, to be honest with you, because the teen stuff in I can try important also. Don't we can actually start now getting into production for our own needs. And then you say this government, but somehow when I live in I do say things, and some of them will have naivety in them because I speak as a child. Me at the same time, a grown child. Tell me where it is that I'm missing it, and let's correct it. Me, the way things are, the status quo, you don't know. It is not healthy for us. into the future. It is impoverishing and enslaving us worse than our parents were. Now we become modern-day slaves because we are totally dependent on outsiders for our sustenance. Bara pesa, bara pesa basadi ba rona, the toilet paper, whatnot, everybody.
And you know,
Exactly.
you know, guys, the reason why this land issue is very important. It's transgenerational. It will live way beyond us. Makua, England, Great Britain, it's just a small little island. And they realized what land, the value of land is. When they had finished butchering each other for the land that they had in their small islands, they then thought, no, this very concept, if I can come back to the Queen and prove to her that the Africans that I saw there gave me rights to that land, the very same way the rights apply in the UK, and I can get finance from them, I can get this land of these people who don't know the value of land and don't know what a title deed is. All he did was he came, brought back proof of ownership of a non-fungible item.
Yeah.
He showed that there is proof that I own that non-fungible item. That very proof, whether the Queen had seen that land or not, but proof of the non-fungible item, released money for him to start the real project. Guys, Africa today, as it stands, has vast tracts of land. Land that can easily just like this be turned immediately into money.
Yeah.
The same way they turned land they had not seen or touched into money.
And remember this, brother. Remember, 7% in the Harvard in 1885 or shortly thereafter. To show you they didn't want us to know what they were doing. 7%, everybody needs a freehold. Everybody is for settlers. And we were not allowed in there.
And that's
And
why
they said 70%, yeah, that's fine. So now we thought, so 70% happened. They were shaking my jacket. And the 7%, go away and take it. But when we take it, imagine the state of mind of our people back then. Or how one I just take never gonna keep grand it took us to be born and to go and study, but not study with but study with peripheral vision, to study even for dead people. That's how you study. Otherwise, book alone and the degrees alone would not give us this. Never. So that's why most of our peers are trapped, because they're trapped by the scholarship, that they are not critical thinkers to think outside what they were taught. And the knowledge was given by the very same people, by 7%. So if they don't treat you right, how can they teach you right?
Yeah, that's true.
The person who doesn't treat you right cannot teach you right, but that should be obvious.
But
So-
who is teaching?
The curriculum.
Who is teaching their technology?
They have gone off the planet now. They've gone off the planet now. They're not with us. We're playing catch up.
On the moon now.
But no, we're
Elon Musk
doing,
wants to go to Mars.
they're doing,
Elon
Mambo.
Musk learned from someone.
You know what? Also, this learning
Okay,
is
that's allowed.
Thank you. I want to understand this issue here.
the whole thing. I don't know if you with me.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the trick. The trick about unbundle. It's almost similar to what the scaling rule or rate that is used on subdivisions. The independence that you've created for financing possibilities, the independence that you've created to sell one by one. This is why we say, for example, even the Sectional Title Act has not been done justice by we need pioneers for it. That's why I don't really understand it. And we don't know whose responsibility it was to go out there and teach it. So we have accepted it. Well, if the cap fits, wear it. We need to teach it because it is very important in developing nations. Or you cannot afford to have more than one development on one plot and have it under one title. It is not good for you, your flexibility. It is not good for your value. And the value are all listen. What I was supposed valuers don't even know how to value a road. Our valuers, you know that. They don't know. They were not taught. And they came here and found property. What's not valuing property all their lives? How much like here value? He must run to South Africa and look for somebody who has the experience. So literally sectional title, by the way, they still need input from others who are very well versed with the science of what happens to property when you value it as a sectional title scheme. A sectional title scheme is totally on this. I have to sectionalize this because his value is bundle. You have no idea. Even the more the units, the crazier the value will get. Because I will get sectionals for all these offices. And all this will be like common. Common, the parking, everything. So sectional title, it's all about creating integrity and independence of property or an asset so that it performs. In Hong Kong, the value is even on height. The servitudes that but I think that are vertically challenged. So and how about what's about created? By my liga, or he is a 2 apartment in the minuscule things.
When you think about it, it's the same sentence as you are and I'm thinking about it, living at my house. Out of the block 17. So get the right
Absolutely. Made out without any care.
Definitely.
The beauty of sectional title is just as says. And bundling gives you capability. Imagine, right now as it stands, if someone can't buy that unit, your chalet, no one can buy it. Or if you're to sell it, yes, you can sell it, but that person has no title for it. But now, because you've created title for it, that's where the value is, and that's why the valuation changes. And guess what? Your bonda ko banking, bonda chalet. Your bonda there. Now that very same property that could only be bonded once can be bonded 3 times by 3 different people.
Independent.
I'll give you a shocking example, brother.
Right.
You'll be shocked. A friend of mine contacts me. Listen, I've got a tender to go and value a huge property, 400 hectares of that land by the airport. Yes, I've been given to go and value that whole land, 400 hectares. So can you please send me the development plan? I look at the development plan, it's industrial. I say, okay, the zone, there's no breakdown, it's just a zone, industrial. All right. Then I contact the department, says, listen, I know you've got a master plan for that place. Send me the master plan so that I see it.
Contact the Cesar?
Yes. Cesar sends me the master plan, an approved master plan. That shows how all that 400 hectares has been broken down. This is for this different zones. And I then contact the valuer. Listen, just go back to them and tell them you are not going to value this whole 400 hectares, the whole plot as it is. First things first, let them subdivide according to that master plan. Where the roads are, let them subdivide and get title of each individual zone, the road, break down that master plan on paper. Once you've broken it down on paper, then we can talk about value. Now imagine how many other places
have just been valued as a whole slab of land. like
Yeah.
this. And then you look at Botswana's balance sheet,
Yeah.
and Botswana has 3 billion in assets.
Is it really?
Is it really 3 billion?
Yeah.
You look at the New York
Yeah. Yeah.
balance,
Yeah.
just that state,
Yeah.
Wall Street there. They've got sectional title for every single room.
Yeah. And the
And
value is.
on their balance sheet,
Yeah.
when you look at them, when they say how much assets does New York have, 300 billion US dollars.
Yeah.
And we're not because you've just valued the whole slab of
And
land,
killed other capital, dead capital.
killed everything else.
Mm-hmm.
So we are so undervalued as a country.
Mm.
We are so undervalued.
Mm.
We look bad on paper.
Mm.
Yet in actual fact,
Yes.
you and Amojara thing you have, you look bad on paper.
Mm.
You took her. You are born in a chalet. Come along. More pampiring. Even your multi-res. How only multi-res? Utama ure no kinali multi-res. But what like 5. Come along. On paper, you say 1,200 square meters.
Absolutely. It's just compulsory in developing nations. Almost compulsory. The sectional title scheme. Look at South Africa. Sectional title is so evolved that any development you see off plan, off plan, what it is. Sectional title, all of them. I want to pay a real consequential development. Or as a sectional title because it's not financially viable. It is part of the equation that we can't dodge.
Can you have sectional before you go?
No.
Okay,
That's the one. That's the one.
But then you go to roof level, right?
That's the second one that I have, and I think it's an interesting development, is that what you are bringing up is something that I think I hold dear, and I hold highly dear, just a new point. I often wonder why is it that we say the valuation of Apple for the company is much more valuable than Congo and all of these African countries put together. Right, good valuation. And I'm now starting to think it's because the way the value our continent is, with the amount of cobalt and everything else, the valuation in Africa is much more. Our problem is at the level they are what we are discussing now. But the problem is that maybe the AU should just do 2 things. Should just do 1, marketing Africa, and 2, valuations. Yes. Then revalue Africa. We never Congo is not valued value, but what we are saying is that cobalt they got us in Congo and
Yes, you must have time for this.
If I can
See, another thing, evaluation.
if I can pitch in there as a Congolese, no? No, but it's a very good example.
Yeah.
Because what you're talking about is what is under the ground.
Yeah.
The problem is the scramble of Africa. Remember, the borders, and it actually aligns with what we're talking about right now. The borders and what is in the land, those were drawn by human beings. And they had concessions amongst themselves. They signed treaties, and those treaties are binding to this day. You see, so when we're talking about what is there now, the reality of the matter is it's still bound by treaties that people don't want to break. You see,
There's a bigger problem.
So for example, some years ago, the King of England was forced to apologize to the Congolese government. And that loosened a little bit of that grip they had on the land, what is on it, and what is under it. What's happening now is a lot of the dealings that happen with what is under the land operate by proxy. So you have third parties who are working with the locals who own a lot of licenses, right? And what is under that land is what is used to then value companies like Apple, like Tesla. You see, now, how do you change that? You first have to undo what has been done. And the reality is that's one thing that Botswana is not suffering from. You see, because the land, majority of the land is still in your grasp. You see, we don't have that luxury.
I like that point. Brother.
Yes.
He's made a very
No, we
good
don't
point.
have that
What
now.
he's saying is,
It's not true. It's not true.
Have to go. Other countries don't even have the land to value. They are struggling because historically they lost the land to this corona. 70% staying hours is still not the land, but Paris a day. And remember, title, valuation and title.
Yeah, it's horrible.
You cannot value without title. You're not allowed to. So it's pointless to talk about valuation in the absence of title. It's not a substantive valuation. It is just for in a substantive, there must be a title because there must be definition and then there must be proof of ownership and there must be this accurate definition,
Yes.
mathematical definition. And then, of course, we speak of intrinsic value. One of my favorites, topic of capital.
Yes.
I want to start again. Next time I'm going to make it clear. So now we've got things that are hidden that we need to bring to the fore. So the value is not. If you don't know what you have diamond, again you don't know. So when you value, you want to incorporate that as a parameter. But when you know, it's not only knowing the land use. When you don't know the land use, you think it's just land. When you realize it's commercial, you all of a sudden, so it's knowing what the land carries for you and the uniqueness. And if you are able to translate it into a marketing something and make it happen out there, which is topic of capital is big in that sense. And then, of course, I was thinking of Pico. How do we value Pico infrastructure? Pico kind of like. Even if, but out there, there's no general investment. Look at all the money that was poured on. It's still active today. It's active. It's speak and spread.
Considering the price of selling the mine to the next company, in considering it, if you don't have title to the housing around that place, to the roads, how do you then go to someone and say, buy this for 200 million? If you've not created the title for you to be able to call a value and say, I've got title in Piquet to 300 houses, I've got title to 600, value this, and then include that in the determination of the price of this asset that you're buying, or this right that you're buying, or this lease that you're buying. Without title, really, you do not realize what you really have. Your hand was up, so.
Why is it in South Africa